Speaking of issues on the internet, though, I swear I saw this, and right before we started recording here today, I mentioned this to you, and you gave me the Skype audio equivalent of looking at me like I had a steaming turd hanging out of my mouth. But several people tweeted this to me a day or two ago, and it looked official, and it looked like something that they would do, so I took it for granted as being legitimate, that AEW was having some kind of contest or something to pick its talent, or who among its talent roster should fill the parts in a reenactment, or I think they called it a table reading of A Christmas Story, the holiday movie, A Christmas Story, with little fucking ding-a-ling that wants the Red Ryder BB gun. Little, as Oldie would say, little Johnny Dumbfuck that wants a little Red Ryder BB gun. And I mentioned this to you, and you had not seen this and scoffed at it. Have you been able to uncover any research on this?
Yeah, I found a tweet from the AEW on TNT account, which appears to be official. In celebration of 24 hours of A Christmas Story, starting Christmas Eve on TNT and TBS, we are doing a table read of the movie with AEW stars. But we need your help to cast some open roles. Check out the matchups in this thread and vote for your favorite. And I guess they, again, I'm not very familiar with A Christmas Story, but Cody Rhodes.
Wait a minute. What?
Yeah, I don't watch this movie.
Are you out of your mind?
I'm Jewish.
Hold on, just
I'm
pump
Jewish.
the fucking brakes. I don't care if you're a Martian. Just pump the brakes here. We'll do this bit here in a minute, but let's address the fucking real situation here. And once again, for our international listeners, they may not know, but the movie A Christmas Story, with one of my favorite actors in the world, Darren McGavin, and it's based on the Gene Shepard was the author, I believe, wasn't it? And regardless, A Christmas Story is a holiday movie that every year TBS and TNT, the Turner networks, own the rights to this movie for broadcast, for television, and they play it on a loop for 24 hours every Christmas, both networks. And this is a classic movie, and you can come into it at the start, in the middle, at the end. It's just a series of classic vignettes that everybody remember. The kid gets the tongue stuck to the flagpole, and the fucking leg lamp gets delivered to Darren McGavin as his prize for the fucking contest. And it's all about this child's family and happenings around the holidays when he was a young tow-headed boy. A Christmas Story. It's a classic movie. It's played over and over and over again. Everybody has seen this multiple times. And you're telling me that you are not familiar with A Christmas Story.
I've seen it on TV. I know the scene with the kid licking the pole, because that's the kid who was in the toy, Scotty Schwartz.
I've seen it on TV. That's like referring to Mona Lisa. Yeah, I've heard it's a painting.
Hey, by the way, if you're going to do a table reading with the stars of AEW, bringing up Scotty Schwartz in the toy, maybe you should do the toy. That seems to be a little more in line with what AEW really is. A rich kid comes home from school, goes to a toy store, and says, I want that man. And Richard Pryor ends up moving into his house.
You're fading the heat off your.
No, I don't care. I don't like. Look, I've seen a little bit of the movie every now and then. I've never watched it all the way through. I'm not a real big fan of it. There are certain Christmas movies I like. I like Die Hard, but I'm not a big fan.
Oh, come on. That's not a Christmas movie. It's a movie at Christmas.
But I'm not a big fan of this movie. And as a Jew, I've always thought Santa Claus is kind of a big Nazi.
What?
He's a Nazi.
Santa Claus is a Nazi.
He's wearing red. There's white. Okay. There's black. I'm not a fan of A Christmas Story.
You're not. Yeah, all right. You need to work on that one. Anyway. So are they going to, I was expecting to see this, the AEW Christmas Story. I was expecting to see, or actually trepidatious, apprehensive that I would see this on their television program. I didn't see or hear anything about it. Is this something they're going to spring on us? Is this another cinematic masterpiece? Are they going to have the Christmas Story match?
Well, have you ever seen table reads before?
Well, that is where in the entertainment world, they sit around the table and read the script and read the various parts. But is that what are they going to shoot that?
Well, it doesn't say anything here. It doesn't say anything here in this tweet about this airing or when it would air.
Okay, so what? So they're just going to sit around in a room and jack off for their own jollies, but they want the fans to pick who gets to play, and then we don't see it? Well, I don't understand.
Well, I'm guessing maybe they won't all be in the same room, considering COVID-19. Maybe they'll have the heels in one place and the baby faces in another. But the only roles I see here that have been assigned are Jim Ross as the narrator, because nothing says warm Christmas spirit like Jim Ross.
JR.
And Cody Rhodes as Old Man Parker, and Brandy Rhodes as Mother Parker. Are they the parents of the young boy in the movie?
Yeah.
And then they're trying to figure out who's going to play Santa Claus, who's going to play all these different kids. Parkus? Is that what it says here? It's kind of small. Farkus?
Well, yeah.
Is it Farkus or Parkus? It's very small. I can't
Farkus. I think. Well, now you've got me quite. Anyway, the point is, are they trying to suck up to TNT or what's going on with it? Because, as we said, it's a TNT and TBS tradition. It's the Turner Network people. They own this thing. Now they're showing AEW. Are they trying to suck up to the network doing this, or is it one of those deals? 30 years ago, the last time TBS and Turner people got their grubby mitts on a wrestling promotion, they actually tried to do this shit. And that fucking old, dried up, withered old crone Jim Herd may want to deny it, but I was there when they had talks about that. They had originally, the Turner Home Entertainment people had come to them because they had that entire library of movies, the Turner Classic Movies, right? And they were starting Turner Classic Movie Network, and they were starting the whole 9 yards, and they wanted to cross-promote and or monetize. There is actually a quote. I can't remember whether it was one of the New York Times pieces they did or it was whether in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution or whatever, but one of the big articles they did on Turner Broadcasting now taking over this wrestling promotion and going to make it huge and revolutionize the industry. Jim Herd was quoted as saying, well, yeah, if we've got Treasure Island. If we could find a big one-legged wrestler, we could have Long John Silver. That was in a newspaper. He was thinking that way. And I've heard people say that he, after the fact, denied he wanted to switch Ric Flair to Spartacus. Well, I don't know which gladiator it was, or maybe it was just a generic gladiator, because they had I guess Herd watched a lot of gladiator movies. Maybe spent some time in a Turkish prison. But anyway, so now 30 years later, are they doing that? And already they were trying to cross over with the NBA on TNT, but I think we haven't heard Shaq's name out of anybody's chicken lips in the past couple of weeks. Maybe Shaq.
Yeah, boy, that went nowhere.
Shaq watched Jane Cargill and said, fuck no. I ain't going to get involved in this shit.
That went nowhere. Can you imagine?
But is this what they're doing now? They're trying crossovers. Maybe this time they're sucking up rather than having them forced on them. But I'm thinking, think about it.
I don't know. Just because, again, based on what I'm seeing here, it isn't the AEW Twitter account. It's the AEW on TNT Twitter account. Maybe this is a TNT thing saying, hey, would you guys do something like this?
Well, but here's the thing. What did Ted Turner himself say built TBS? Wrestling, which they allegedly have now. Baseball, the Atlanta Braves.
That's right.
Which they've still got, and I don't think they want AEW fucking with. And the Andy Griffith Show reruns. So I'm thinking, if they're going to do something, why don't they do it with a real TBS property, the Andy Griffith Show? Think about that. If they recast the Andy Griffith Show and did a remake, that JR could be Andy Taylor, right? Folksy homespun wisdom.
Oh, come on.
Tony Khan could be Barney Fife. Not as big around as a stack of dimes and real nervous and fidgety. Probably got some ADD before it was such a thing as diagnosed. Adam Page could be Otis Campbell because he's already drunk all the time. He just need to gain some weight. Trent's mom could be Aunt B. Think about that. She's already, Aunt B didn't drive a minivan. They didn't have them back then, but she did bake the guys some cookies, didn't she? Or was it brownies? So Trent's mom could, and little Pip, Old Pip Sabian. He could be Opie if Opie was a really, really small child. And then I'm thinking, my favorite episodes of Andy Griffith were always when the Darlin' Boys came to town, right? Briscoe Darlin' and the Darlin' Boys. Because then you got some good music too and everything. And they're big on musicals. We know that now in AEW, right? They'll break into song and dance in a heartbeat. So what about and we found out old dwarf dongsucker, Marco Stunt, he's got a whole family. He's got his brother looks just as snaggle-toothed and emaciated and girlish as he does. And old Jelly, he looks like a trailer park meth cooker, so he could fit right in there. You could have dwarf dongsucker and his brother and Jelly could be the Darlin' Boys. And they could come to town and they could get tossed in jail there in Mayberry, right in the cell next to Chris Jericho, who was coming through in his sports car and violated the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit and got picked up by Tony Khan for speeding. And all of a sudden, while they're sitting there in jail, they could break into a fucking song and dance version of Dooley. What do you think, Brian? Would that work?
It could, I guess.
Dooley was a good old boy, lived below the mill. Dooley had 2 daughters and a 40-gallon still. One gal watched the boiler, the other watched the spout. Mama corked the bottles when old Dooley fetched 'em out. Dooley, slipping up the holler, Dooley, trying to make $1. Dooley, give me a swaller and I'll pay you back someday.
I'm guessing.
Now I remember very well the day old Dooley died. The women folk looked sorry and the men stood around and cried. They buried Dooley on the hill up there all alone. Laying right next to his still a barrel for a stone. Dooley, slipping up the holler, Dooley, trying to make $1. Dooley, give me a swaller and I'll pay you back someday.
All right, enough of this garbage song.
It's Dooley.
It sucks.
It's bluegrass.
I'm guessing Tony Schiavone is Floyd the Barber.
Tony Schiavone. Because, Howard McNear, who played Floyd the Barber, had a neuromuscular thing of he had a stroke or whatever, and he had to do all of his scenes for the last couple seasons he was on the show sitting down. And the more I see Tony, not only as his waistline expands, but as he is dressed in a suit and tie from the waist up and neon fucking pajama pants from the waist down, I think possibly Tony is in the first stages of Alzheimer's because he's forgetting to completely dress all the way. Anyway,
his pants really did stand out this week, but
no, this week I made note of it. He had a suit, jacket and a tie and a collared shirt, and he had bright magenta pajama pants on.
Maybe he's shopping with Miro. You don't know.
Sitting down fucking behind the desk, or did somebody might ever once see him from head to toe?
Look, all of a sudden he has an earring. He's obviously having some sort of identity.
Tony Schiavone does not have an earring.
Tony Schiavone has an earring.
What?
He's having some sort of identity crisis.
He's the epitome of an old white man. He's older and whiter than me.
Is he older than you?
I believe he is.
Well, he has an earring.
Oh my God, look at him. I'd hate to think he's not. Look like that and not even be as old as me? Where did you see his earring?
On his ear.
Well, I guess
you haven't noticed. I mean, it's been there for a while. This isn't a new thing.
I'm not sitting there just looking at Tony Schiavone's ears, just fixated on
When
him.
they show him on TV, it's glaring that all of a sudden he has an earring. Bob Caudle never had an earring.
Lance Russell never had an earring.
And there's Tony Schiavone, and he looks ridiculous, and he has a fucking earring now.
I've never seen this. I can buy an earring on Mario Galento.
Yes.
But not Tony Schiavone.
No.
It just doesn't fit.
No.
Well, they all want to play with the cool kids. What is this? It should be MLC wrestling, midlife crisis wrestling.
Then Jericho would get the title back.
Well, there you go. He is the champion.
He is the champion of the midlife crisis.
Tony, you're an old white man from North Carolina. Please take the earring out. You're going to hurt yourself.